Hello everyone, Mr. Lipchick here, and our discussion today is going to be on economic theories. There are a variety of theories about how the economy of various countries should be governed, and we'll discuss them in general terms. Okay, economic systems. Economics is a science which determines how a society tries to satisfy unlimited wants through the use of limited resources. Okay, it is a study of that process. Economies must answer three important questions. One, what should be produced and how much of it? Two, how should goods and services be produced? And three, for whom should goods and services be produced? These are all very key questions that determine the type of economy and political system you have. Every human community has an economy. Modern economies use money as a medium of exchange, while earlier economies did not. Individuals tend to specialize in creating goods or services so that resources can be utilized more efficiently. This is true of every economy. In a traditional society, you could have someone who makes arrows. You can have another person who specializes in medicines. Okay, whereas in a modern society, it is a little more specialized. But there's specialization in every economy. Okay. Capitalism. Capitalism has its origins with European merchants who sought to be free of fees and controls imposed by monarchies. And in 1776, Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations, which promoted this idea, which he called laissez-faire or free markets. Wanted the government to keep its hands off. He felt that markets were amazing things which would correct themselves whenever there were problems, and to some degree he was right. Capitalism is a system of free enterprise in which individuals make most of the economic decisions through free choice. Competition between businesses for customers creates cheap, plentiful, high-quality goods. Because they're competing, they're going to be trying to make the best product at the best price. Characteristics of a capitalist system: private ownership and control of resources. Free enterprise, anyone can enter or leave business at any time. Freedom of choice for consumers. And the promise of possible profits. Profits drive people to become business people and start their own companies. The promise of profits. Capitalism is a very efficient system. Private ownership of business ensures that resources are not wasted. If you're trying to make a product at the best possible price, you are not going to waste materials or time or anything else. Businesses that waste resources will not last. Capitalism provides a very high standard of living. Businesses compete to provide the best goods and services. Consumers have access to affordable, high-quality goods. While capitalism is highly efficient, it is not always fair. The 1800s saw the emergence of alternative economic theories in an effort to more fairly distribute goods and services. There were a lot of extremely wealthy people in the 1800s and a lot of very impoverished people. Early in the history of the United States, a virtually free market existed, but with prosperity came instability. To the right, you see a picture of the railroad strike of 1877, which resulted from a depression and the company's decision to cut wages. Starting in the early 1900s, the government has exercised more control and has increasingly regulated markets in the public interest. Socialism. Socialism is an economic system in which the government owns the basic means of production. They don't own everything, but they own the big industries. The goals of socialism include an equal distribution of wealth and opportunity among the people. Private businesses are owned by individuals, but major industries such as steel and coal are not. Democratic socialism is a system in which the government makes most major economic decisions with free elections and respect for human rights. The basic needs of the citizens are met, such as food, housing, and education. And economic growth is slow, however, with high taxes and inefficiency. A close relative of socialism is communism. Communism is an economic system with a command economy, state ownership of all means of production, and a state ownership of property. The production of all goods and services are centrally planned. The economy is unresponsive to consumer demands. Therefore, there is no government in the world that could possibly plan for every economic event or desire of the people. And political and religious groups are suppressed because they usually contradict the government's policies. Communism is an economic and political theory developed by Karl Marx in the 1800s. Here's a picture of him to the right. Marx believed that the capitalist system was unfair and that it would eventually fall. Marx observed terrible English poverty and misery of factory workers in the 1800s. The workers, he believed, would rise up, seize control of the state, and abolish private property. A classless system would emerge from the communist revolution, and he believed this revolution would be peaceful. He believed that it was just an economic theory of something that would eventually happen. He did not himself advocate revolutions. The world's first communist government emerged in Russia after the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution. Russia's industrial workers and soldiers overthrew the Tsar. And the ideals of the revolution were very liberal, but within several years it developed into a totalitarian dictatorship. And Joseph Stalin to the right is the individual who is responsible for that. Communism was supposed to be a classless system and fair. In reality, however, communism was not classless, as party officials enjoyed luxuries and advantages over other citizens. To the right, you see a car from the Soviet Union, but these things like cars were reserved for Communist Party members and, important people in the party. They were not generally available to the public. Over time, however, communist countries in Eastern Europe began to long for political and economic reforms. In 1989, democratic revolution swept Eastern Europe and led to the fall of the Soviet Union. The system just didn't work economically or politically. People couldn't express their feelings, they couldn't govern themselves, and the economy was a shambles. So while communism initially spread to many countries, very few still practice it, and they would be China, Cuba, and North Korea. That concludes our discussion. Thank you for attending, and I look forward to seeing you in the live lesson. Have a great day.